You are listening to Leading the Factory Forward with your host, Lynn Friest. We share interviews with manufacturing experts and strategies for embracing the digital future, recruiting a new workforce, finding new business. Lynn is an advanced manufacturing strategist and leadership consultant who is on a mission to show manufacturing leaders how to improve their current operations while preparing for a digital future. And here's your host, Lynn Friest.
Welcome to this episode of Leading the Factory Forward. This is part 4 of our Digital Leadership and Change Management series. And this is the last part of our series on Industry 4.0 and your role in digital leadership. In this post, I'm going to share 2 methods of leading change or dealing with change management for your new technologies or for just other changes in your business. And again, while we're talking about technology in this series, you always find we come back to the people skills because technology doesn't happen without the people. So I'll be going over 2 models. The first will be William Bridges' model. His book is called Managing Transitions, Making the Most of Change. And the second one will be Dr. John Kotters' 8-Step Process for Successful Change. So in a quote from William Bridges' book, and actually the quotes from John Kenneth Galbraith, faced with the choice between changing one's mind and proving that there is no need to do so, almost everybody gets busy on the proof. In other words, we tend to find we need to stay in our comfort zone or stay where we are. But you have to ask yourself, are you really in your comfort zone? Or could you be ending up in a misery zone if you're not keeping up with technology and your business is not going to be competitive? The Gallup Group has found 4 needs of followers. Followers want to see trust, stability, compassion, and hope. So as you think about change or think about leadership in general, those are 4 things to kind of keep in mind. I've often been in my career involved in many different kinds of change initiatives, and often the leader is the one that says, change is great, you go first. So in other words, change has to be led, not tell other people to make the change. So again, jumping back into the William Bridges model, a quote from his book, in other words, change is situational. Transition, on the other hand, is psychological. It's not those events, but rather the inner reorientation, self-redefinition that you have to go through in order to incorporate any of these changes into your life. Without a transition, a change is just a rearrangement of the furniture. Unless transition happens, the change won't work because it doesn't take. So we'll look through this model now. And I think the main strength of the model is that it does focus on this idea of transition, not change. It may be a subtle difference, but it is real. Transition happens to people. It's internal. It's how they feel. It's how they react. Change can happen quickly. You can implement change and tell people just do it a different way, and sometimes it works, and most of the time it doesn't. So in the Bridges model, there are 3 stages to the transition. There's the ending, and that means you're losing, you're letting go, you're getting rid of the current and the comfortable. There's the neutral zone. That's where you're putting something new together. And then there's the actual new beginning. And again, Bridges, he says these steps will have to be gone through by people, and they'll go through them individually, not as a group. It will happen some more quickly. You always have early adopters in whatever you do. Some of them will happen more slowly, and quite frankly, you may find a few that it won't happen at all with, and you'll have to deal with that. So that's stage 1, ending, losing, and letting go. This is where people are scared. They deny it. They may be frustrated. Most of all, they'll be disoriented or face uncertainty. They don't know what it is and why do I have to do it. And also there's a sense of loss. A loss in that this is how I always did things. I'm comfortable. I know how to do that. So you have to acknowledge that, and you have to kind of help people get through the fact that, yes, we're leaving behind something that maybe made us very successful in the past. This won't be true in the future. Then in stage 2 of Bridges' model is what he calls the neutral zone. Again, this is an area where it's in mix, and it can actually be quite challenging because you may still be doing the old process, the old method, as well as trying to learn the new process or get started understanding the new process. So it can actually be quite a difficult time. Here again, people will experience resentment. There'll probably be low morale and anxiety. They don't understand what their role is. So these are the kinds of things where you as a leader need to keep showing the picture of the future. Keep helping people understand where we're going to, and then try to find some small wins while you're in the middle of that. But the flip side is this can be a period of great creativity when things are up in the air and we've disrupted the old processes, the old habits and behaviors. We can now, if you really engage the whole team in what you're trying to build for the future, you can actually develop some pretty good new ideas as to, okay, how are we going to really successfully implement the new change? And that's stage 3, the new beginning. And this is where people will have acceptance and they'll bring some energy. They'll begin to embrace things. Hopefully there'll be some openness to learning. And again, they'll start reforming as a group. Okay, we now have new tasks. We have new responsibilities. We have new orientations. So it can be a time of, I guess, a lot of energy and a lot of forward progress. But again, as a leader, you have to be able to sustain that. Again, a quote from William Bridges' book, "We resist transition not because we can't accept the change, but because we can't accept letting go of that piece of ourselves that we have to give up when and because the situation has changed." So again, this whole idea he goes through is we literally have to give up and understand, and many times we're giving up what made us very successful in the past. So that's hard to do. Now, it could be that we'd all become very miserable with whatever the current situation was, but more often than not, it was a source of our past success. It just may not be in the future because we have to adopt some new technology or new processes. So now jumping on to John Kotters' 8-step change model, and this is more prescriptive. This is more what you might find in traditional change management. And he found in his book that basically 70% of all major change efforts fail in most organizations. And why? Because people tried to just implement something and haven't really paid attention to the people side of it as they've gone forward. So in step 1, he says, act with urgency. You really need to let people know what are the market and competitive realities. What are the things facing your company and your people? And you have to have some urgency about this is why we are changing. In step 2, he would say, develop a guiding coalition. Change won't come from you as the individual leader. It comes from a group. So you have to engage other people in your group. Certainly that's going to be important down the long run, but even in the very beginning, you need to have other people involved in planning and getting some energy around the change. Step 3 is you need to develop a change vision. Again, have you created that picture of the future? Give people some strategies. Maybe a better word is pathways to the future. So how are we going to get there? Understanding that this is a change process, this is new technology. The road is not straight. It's going to be winding with possibly even some setbacks, but still having a compelling vision to help you and others move towards that future. And then you have to communicate that. And a lot of this is sometimes, I don't want to upset people, so I'll only tell them what they need to know. But you really have to start sharing it as widely and consistently as you can. And quite frankly, the other thing you have to do is you have to model a behavior. If you're going to expect people to do something with some new technology, you have to find a way to model it so they see you going forward with them. And then step 5, you need to empower broad-based action. And so as a leader, you need to remove some obstacles to change. So whether it be old reports that really are no longer uses, empower people to drop those reports. Or you may have to change some reporting relationships. Or you may have to literally rearrange the furniture. But it's one of those things where you need to get some energy around a broad-based action plan, moving ahead, not just talking about moving ahead. And this is also the place where you have to be open to having people take risks. They're going to try some things and they won't work. And that's okay. But you need to have people out trying things and finding out the solution that will work in the future. Step 6 in this process is you want to try to generate some short-term wins. Plans for some sort of visible improvements. Where can people really see what's happening? You may have a pilot project or you may have some short-term thing. Hey, we just successfully implemented this small piece of the technology and this is how it works. And then recognize and reward people who are being involved in this, who are embracing the change, who are really moving things ahead, and even those who have made mistakes. Hey, somebody did this, it failed, but we learned this, and now we can move ahead. So generating short-term wins. Step 7, don't let up. You really need to use your credibility, your systems, your communications. You really have to keep after it because, quite frankly, any change process means we're developing new habits. And the fact that I want to do a new habit doesn't mean it's automatically created. So you really have to have consistency in messaging, consistency in how you model a vision, consistency in how you keep encouraging people to create the new processes and actually use those new processes. And then finally, in step 8, you want to make the change stick. So you really have to, again, re-articulate for everybody what's the new process, what's our new organization look like, ensure that the right people are there, and that if new leadership or new things are needed, you've actually made them the new way. The worst thing you can do is sustain old reports or old meetings or old ways of doing things. You really need to complete the flip and go on to new ways. So if an old set of metrics doesn't really reflect what you're paying attention to now, you have to abandon that set of metrics and really focus on the new metrics. If you're talking about cycle speed or time to market, you really have to hold on to that. That's got to be the first thing you talk about in every meeting. And certainly you can't be talking about things that are from the old meetings. So again, that's Dr. John Kotters' 8-step process for change. And that wraps up this very brief overview of 2 models for leading change and managing change for digital leadership. Certainly, this is not the whole picture, but it helps to set the stage for our journey on leading the factory forward into a digital future. Now, obviously, even in the brief information I provided, you can't work on everything all at once, but these are a couple of good models. You can pick out a couple of ideas and give them a try. And most important of all, as you try to map your future and your progress forward, talk with your teams, involve them. They can help you with the thinking. They can help you with building solutions. They can help you with building the future. So just a quick recap, the William Bridges model of managing transitions is there's an ending or losing and letting go. There's the neutral zone where things are uncertain, but we're getting rid of the old. And then there's the new beginning where we're actually starting the new behaviors, the new technology, the new processes. And in Dr. John Kotters' change model, we have 8 steps: acting with urgency, developing a guiding coalition, developing a change vision, communicating the vision or getting buy-in, empowering broad-based action, generating short-term wins, not letting up, and finally, making change stick. So in this final episode of this series, we've shared some ideas around change leadership that can help you lead you on your digital journey. And in the show notes and then on my website will be additional resources of the things that I've mentioned both in this episode and previous episodes. Now, our next series is going to be about what can we learn from successful startups. Again, we have an existing business. We're having success. We'd like to have more success. But I think there's some ideas and perspectives from the startup culture that could really help us even as an existing business. So we'll be going into that beginning in our next episode. Again, thanks for leading and lead your factory into the future.